Most people break under pressure. They explode in anger, drown in worry, or shut down when life becomes too heavy. But what if mental toughness wasn't about being hard on the outside, but about being steady on the inside? Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers of Rome, lived through exile, betrayal, political chaos, and even his own death sentence, and yet his writings remain calm, clear, and unshaken. He teaches that toughness is not the absence of pain, but the strength to endure it with reason and dignity. The question is, can you learn to do the same? Seneca's first lesson for mental toughness is to accept that life is uncertain and beyond our control. He wrote often about fortune, reminding us that the world does not bend to our wishes. We may plan, work, and hope, but storms will come. Illness may strike, wealth may vanish, people may betray us. To expect stability in an unstable world is to prepare yourself for constant disappointment. True strength begins when you stop demanding that life be easy. Think of a sailor. He does not control the sea, only his ship. He cannot command the winds, but he can set his sails. In the same way, you cannot decide what the world will throw at you, but you can decide how you respond. When you accept that external events are not in your hands, you free yourself from endless frustration. Seneca reminded us that most of our suffering comes not from what happens, but from our refusal to accept it. We resist reality, wishing it were different, and in that resistance we break. But when you expect life to be unpredictable, hardship no longer feels like an injustice. It feels like part of the journey. Ask yourself, do you cling to the illusion of control? Do you rage at fate when it doesn't follow your script? Mental toughness means loosening your grip, allowing life to be what it is, and focusing on what is truly yours, your thoughts, your choices, your actions. Everything else is wind and tide. You are the sailor. Your task is to steer. Seneca's second lesson is to prepare the mind before hardship arrives. He believed that much of our suffering comes from being surprised by difficulties. When trouble comes suddenly, unprepared minds collapse. But when you have rehearsed adversity in your thoughts, you meet it with calm readiness. Seneca advised practicing premeditatio malorum, the meditation on worst-case scenarios. Imagine losing wealth, health, status, or even loved ones. This is not to live in fear, but to weaken fear's hold on you. Picture a soldier who trains daily for battle. When the real fight comes, his body already knows what to do. In the same way, the mind that has already walked through disaster in thought does not tremble when disaster arrives. Seneca would remind himself each morning that people may lie, insult, or betray him. He would remind himself that today may bring pain or loss. By doing so, he was never blindsided by life's cruelty. This practice does not strip joy from life. Instead, it sharpens gratitude. When you've imagined going hungry, every meal feels like a blessing. When you have considered the loss of a friend, each conversation feels more precious. Preparing for hardship makes you stronger in suffering and gentler in peace. Mental toughness does not grow by denying life's dangers. It grows by facing them in advance. So when they come, you meet them as old acquaintances, not terrifying strangers. Ask yourself, do you practice the strength of preparation, or do you wait for storms untrained? Seneca's wisdom is clear. The time to build resilience is before the storm, not during it. Seneca's third lesson is to master your emotions rather than let them master you. He did not deny that feelings are natural. Anger, fear, grief, these rise in every human heart. But he warned that when emotions control us, they turn us into slaves. A person ruled by rage is no different than a chariot dragged by wild horses. Strength comes not from suppressing emotions entirely, but from guiding them with reason. Consider how often anger blinds us. A single insult can burn for days, poisoning thought and action. Fear, too, can paralyze, stopping us from making wise choices. Seneca wrote that emotions are like fire. Small and controlled, they can warm and protect us, but left unchecked, they consume everything. Mental toughness is learning to keep the flame where it serves, not where it destroys. How do we achieve this? First, by slowing down. Rarely is the first reaction the right one. Anger urges us to lash out. Fear tells us to retreat. Grief begs us to collapse. But if we pause, breathe, and allow reason to return, we gain clarity. Second, by remembering that our judgments create our emotions. It is not the insult itself that hurts, but our belief that it matters. Change your judgment, and the emotion changes too. And Seneca urged us to see emotions as visitors knocking at the door of the mind. You may acknowledge them, but you need not invite them to stay. To be tough is not to feel nothing, but to choose which feelings deserve your time and which must be sent away. This is mastery, and without it, no one can claim to be truly strong. Seneca's fourth lesson is to measure wealth not by what you have, but by what you can live without. Much of human weakness comes from dependence on possessions, comfort, and luxury. The more you believe you cannot live without something, the more fragile you become when it is taken away. Seneca, though he was one of the richest men of Rome, often reminded himself that true wealth is found in needing little. He would practice voluntary poverty, choosing at times to eat coarse bread, wear rough clothing, and sleep on a hard surface. Why? Not because he hated comfort, but because he wanted to prove to himself that he did not depend on it. If he could endure the simplest life, then fortune had no power over him. This is toughness at its core, when you are not broken by losing what others cling to. Imagine two men. One has a palace filled with gold, but trembles at the thought of losing it. The other owns little, but feels no fear of loss. Who is richer? Who is stronger? Seneca teaches that it is the second man, for his happiness is not chained to fragile things. When you rely too heavily on comfort, the smallest disruption shakes you. But when you train yourself to live with less, you discover freedom. You no longer fear poverty, for you have already tasted it and survived. You no longer depend on luxury, for you know joy can be found in simplicity. This is the strength that comes from detachment, a mind unafraid of losing what it never considered essential. Ask yourself, what do you cling to so tightly that its loss would undo you? Mental toughness means loosening that grip. Seneca's fifth lesson is to control your time as if it were your most precious possession, because it is. He warned that people guard their money with great care, but spend their days and hours without thought. Yet time, once gone, can never be returned. To waste it on trivialities, distractions, or the company of those who drain us is to weaken ourselves. A strong mind protects its hours and lives with intention. Seneca once wrote that life is long enough if we use it wisely, but many people live as if they will never die, delaying what matters most, giving their best years to empty pursuits. Then, when death approaches, they suddenly realize how little they have truly lived. He compared it to travelers who linger in every inn along the way, wasting time and never reaching their destination. Mental toughness is the courage to resist these temptations and guard your purpose. This lesson challenges us to examine our daily habits. How many hours do we surrender to gossip, to anger, to envy, to meaningless distractions? Each of those moments is stolen from us forever. Seneca urged that we spend time with those who lift us higher, on work that shapes our character, and on reflection that sharpens the mind. To control your time is to live awake, not half asleep. It is to choose wisely what deserves your attention and what does not. A tough mind knows that life is short and therefore refuses to waste it. Ask yourself, if your life were to end tomorrow, would you be satisfied with how you used today? The one who can answer yes has already mastered a strength that most never achieve. Seneca's sixth lesson is to see hardship as training, not punishment. He taught that life will test us with loss, pain, betrayal, and disappointment, but these trials are not meant to break us, they are meant to strengthen us. Just as fire makes iron hard, adversity shapes the soul into something unshakable. To seek a life without hardship is to seek weakness. True toughness is born when you face suffering with the mindset of a student, not a victim. Seneca compared adversity to a teacher who gives difficult lessons. No athlete grows strong without resistance. No warrior becomes skilled without battle. In the same way, no mind becomes resilient without trials. If you ask for courage, life gives you fear to overcome. If you seek patience, life gives you obstacles to endure. Each difficulty you face is an opportunity to practice the virtues you admire. Think of your own past. Which moments made you who you are today? Were they the easy days when everything went smoothly? Or were they the days when you had to push through loss, humiliation, or failure? Seneca reminds us that greatness is forged in the fire of difficulty, not in the comfort of ease. The weak person curses hardship, asking, "Why me?" The strong person asks, "What can I learn from this?" That single shift in perspective transforms pain into power. You cannot control whether storms come, but you can control whether they leave you shattered or sharpened. To see hardship as training is to rise above it, to turn every trial into an ally, and to walk forward tougher, calmer, and wiser than before. Seneca's seventh lesson is to master the power of perspective. He taught that things are not as fearful or unbearable as we often imagine them to be. It is not the event itself that crushes us, but the story we tell ourselves about it. The same event that destroys one man can strengthen another, simply because they see it differently. By learning to change how we look at life's challenges, we change how deeply they can wound us. Seneca warned that most suffering comes not from reality, but from our imagination. We worry about things that have not yet happened and often never will. We exaggerate difficulties in our minds until they seem impossible to overcome. Yet when the moment finally arrives, we often find it was not nearly as heavy as we feared. He wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." To toughen the mind, then, is to discipline imagination, to keep it from running wild. Think of a man trapped in a storm at sea. One sailor panics, convinced the ship will sink, while another calmly works to steer the vessel to safety. The storm is the same, but the inner vision is different. The first sailor is undone by fear, the second strengthened by clarity. This lesson urges us to pause before reacting, to step back and ask, is this as bad as my mind makes it? Can I look at it another way? A shift in perspective turns a burden into training, a setback into wisdom, and pain into resilience. By mastering perspective, you gain control not over the world, but over how the world shapes you. And in that control lies true toughness. Seneca's eighth lesson is to rely on your inner fortress, not on external things. He believed that true strength comes from within, from building a mind that cannot be shaken by fortune's changes. Wealth, status, comfort, and even relationships can be taken from us in a single moment. If your peace depends on them, then your peace is fragile. But if your strength is rooted in your own reason, your own discipline, and your own character, then no force can rob you of it. Seneca wrote that the wise man carries his riches within himself. He compared external possessions to borrowed goods, useful for a time, but never truly ours. To build toughness, then, is to make your happiness independent of what others give or take away. It is to stand firm even when stripped bare. This is not to reject the joys of life, but to enjoy them without clinging. And imagine a man who leans on a cane. As long as the cane is there, he feels steady, but if the cane breaks, he falls. Now imagine another who has trained his body to balance on its own. Even if every support is removed, he remains upright. The first depends on what is outside him. The second depends on what is inside. Which one is truly strong? Life will always test what you lean on. If you lean on wealth, it may be stolen. If you lean on status, it may be lost. If you lean on comfort, it may be taken away. But if you lean on your own mind, sharpened by wisdom and guided by virtue, then you carry a fortress within you, and that fortress cannot be destroyed. Seneca's 9th lesson is to live each day as if it were your last. He often reminded himself and others that death is not far from any of us, and that time is the most precious thing we possess. Most people act as though life is endless, wasting their days on anger, envy, or meaningless distractions. But the Stoic sees each day as a gift, each moment as a chance to live with clarity and purpose. To toughen the mind is to face mortality, not with fear, but with calm acceptance. Seneca wrote, "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire." We spend our energy worrying about death, yet we waste the time we have as though it were infinite. This contradiction weakens us. Mental toughness begins when you stop fearing death and instead fear only a wasted life. Consider how different your choices would be if you knew today was your final day. Would you let anger steal your peace? Would you spend your time in petty arguments or complaints? Or would you focus on what matters? Courage, kindness, wisdom, and gratitude. Seneca's wisdom is simple. Live so that when death comes, it takes nothing from you, because you have already lived fully. This lesson is not about gloom, but about freedom. The person who remembers death daily is not crushed by it, but freed from it. They are harder to offend, quicker to forgive, and slower to waste time on what does not matter. To live each day as if it were your last is to build a mind that meets death without fear and meets life without regret. Seneca's 10th lesson is to control your reactions. For while you cannot control what happens to you, you can always control how you respond. He wrote that events are not harmful in themselves. It is our judgment of them that causes suffering. An insult is just words until you choose to make it a wound. A setback is just a change in direction until you choose to call it defeat. To be mentally tough is to master this power of choice. Seneca often warned that anger, fear, and despair do not come from external blows, but from within us. When you face difficulty, your mind leaps to judgment. This is unfair. This is terrible. I cannot endure this. But if you pause, take a breath, and strip away the judgment, the event loses much of its weight. The Stoic practice is to insert reason between event and reaction, to say, "This has happened. Now, what can I do with it?" Think of fire. Throw straw into it, and it blazes higher. Throw iron into it, and it forges strength. In the same way, your reactions can either fuel your weakness or sharpen your character. The same insult that crushes one person can strengthen another. The same loss that breaks one man can inspire another to stand firmer. The difference lies not in the event, but in the response. When you master your reactions, the world loses its power to enslave you. People may mock you, fortune may test you, but you remain free because you have trained yourself to respond with reason instead of impulse. This is the essence of mental toughness, not in changing the world, but in mastering the self. Seneca's 11th lesson is to practice voluntary discomfort. While most people spend their lives chasing ease and luxury, he advised deliberately stepping into small hardships. Why? Because comfort breeds weakness, while chosen discomfort builds strength. He wrote that if you accustom yourself to poverty, hunger, and cold when it is safe, you will not collapse when life forces them upon you. Consider how fragile a life becomes when it depends on constant comfort. A man who cannot bear hunger panics when food is scarce. A woman who cannot tolerate cold shivers at the slightest breeze. But the one who has trained to endure both is unshaken, because nothing surprises them. Voluntary hardship is a rehearsal for life's trials. It is not punishment, it is preparation. Seneca recommended setting aside days to eat coarse food, wear rough clothing, and say to yourself, "Is this what I feared?" When you practice this, you shrink your fears and strengthen your spirit. You learn that you can endure much more than you thought, and that happiness does not depend on luxury, but on your own reason and will. This lesson might seem strange in a world that glorifies comfort, but it is timeless. The athlete strengthens by training in pain, the soldier hardens by drilling in harsh conditions, and the Stoic toughens the mind by practicing small struggles. Voluntary discomfort is not about denying yourself joy, but about making sure joy is never chained to comfort. True freedom is being able to live well in both wealth and poverty, in both abundance and scarcity. When you can do that, no fortune can enslave you. Seneca's 12th lesson is to remember that life is short and that death is certain. This is not meant to frighten us, but to sharpen our focus. He wrote that people are not short of time, but waste much of it. We act as if life has no end, spending days in anger, gossip, or empty distractions, while postponing what truly matters. But each day that passes is one we can never reclaim. To live with mental toughness is to live with an awareness that time is slipping away, and therefore must be used wisely. Imagine how differently we would act if we held death close in mind. Would petty insults matter as much? Would envy eat at us? Would we waste hours on trivialities? Seneca believed that remembering death makes us calmer, not darker. For if you know every moment is precious, you are less likely to throw it away in fury or despair. You begin to see anger as a theft of time, and resentment as a poor investment of your brief years. This awareness is not about mourning life, but cherishing it. Death gives shape to our choices. It reminds us that today is the day to practice virtue, to speak kindly, to endure calmly, to live in accordance with reason. Toughness, then, is not about gritting your teeth against pain, but about directing your limited time toward what matters most. Seneca said that life is long enough if it is lived well. The challenge is not to add years to your life, but life to your years. When you live with an eye on mortality, every trial becomes smaller, every quarrel less serious, and every day more valuable. This is the strength that comes from remembering the brevity of life. Seneca's 13th lesson is to anchor yourself in reason, not in emotion. He believed that the mind is like the captain of a ship. If it holds steady, the vessel survives the storm. But if it is carried away by waves of anger, fear, or desire, it crashes upon the rocks. Mental toughness, in his eyes, is not the suppression of feelings, but the mastery of them through clear judgment. He warned that passions are like wild horses, powerful but dangerous if left unchecked. Anger can burn down friendships. Fear can paralyze action. Desire can enslave a free man. Yet when guided by reason, these forces lose their destructive power. The Stoic does not pretend to be without emotion, but refuses to be ruled by it. Anchoring in reason means pausing before reacting. It means asking, "Is this within my control?" Does this serve virtue? Does this lead me closer to peace or to chaos? By slowing down the rush of feelings and measuring them against reason, you regain command. Even in the fiercest storm, the mind can remain calm, like a lighthouse steady against crashing waves. Seneca's own life tested this lesson. He served as advisor to Nero, one of Rome's most unstable emperors, enduring suspicion, slander, and political danger. Yet his writings show no trace of bitterness, only clarity. He lived what he taught, that reason, not rage, is the true armor of the mind. To practice this lesson today, remember that strength is not in the loudest voice, the harshest reaction, or the quickest reply. It is in the measured word, the calm choice, and the thoughtful pause. When reason leads, emotions follow in harmony, and when the mind is anchored, no storm can sweep you away. When we gather Seneca's lessons together, a clear picture of mental toughness appears. It is not about becoming stone or pretending to feel nothing. It is about living with clarity, balance, and inner strength in a world that constantly tries to pull you off course. Seneca teaches us to prepare for hardship before it arrives, to distinguish between what we control and what we don't, to embrace discomfort, to accept fate, to forgive quickly, to live with awareness of time, and to anchor ourselves in reason. These are not separate tricks, but parts of a single way of life, a life guided by wisdom rather than impulse. The problem is not that life is cruel, but that we often make it harder than it needs to be. We waste energy resisting what cannot be changed, clinging to pleasures that vanish, or fighting enemies who exist only in our imagination. Seneca's wisdom cuts through these illusions. It shows us how to strip away what is unnecessary and face the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. At the heart of his message is freedom. The one who follows reason is free, no matter the chains on his body. The one who serves anger, fear, or desire is enslaved, no matter his wealth or status. Seneca reminds us that true strength does not come from force, but from self-mastery. Mental toughness, then, is not an act but a practice. It is built day by day, thought by thought, choice by choice. The storms of life will not stop, but you can learn to stand firm in them. And when you do, you discover what Seneca himself knew, that peace of mind is not given by the world, it is claimed within yourself. If these lessons spoke to you, subscribe for more Stoic wisdom that will help you grow stronger, calmer, and unshaken, no matter what life brings.